than the executive.
Okay, well, thanks for the point, and but I want to go on because we've got only a few minutes before the end of the programme, and we just leave the subject of domestic politics and take a question from Ray Irving, please. Mr. Irving.
Secularisation in the UK bothers the Pope. Should it bother politicians?
I couldn't hear that. Secularisation in the United Kingdom bothers the Pope. Should it bother politicians? Remember, the Pope's talked about aggressive forms of secularism that no longer value or even tolerate traditional religion. And the Prime Minister said that he didn't agree there was much evidence in the polls that attendance in religious services contradicted this, and it wasn't a largely secular country. Well, it's an interesting point, and where does the truth lie? John Redwood.
I don't think it should bother politicians. I think politicians are here to serve the British people as they are, and the British people will make their own decisions about whether they wish to be religious or not, whether they are strongly of a secular turn of mind or not, and if they are religious, which religions they wish to follow. It is the politician's job to run good public services, to raise the right amount of money to pay for them in a sensible way, and to set a framework of law so that we can live in a civilised, tolerant community. And I think the thing that unites us is believing that it is great to live in a free country where people can follow their own religion as long as it doesn't interfere with other people, and we don't make windows into men's souls.
And do you think there is a new and aggressive atheism abroad, as Cardinal Kasper said?
No, I don't find that at all. I don't think it's noticeably more aggressive or atheistic than it was 5 or 10 years ago, and I have a lot of good church groups in my constituency, and I have quite a lot of people who don't believe a word of it, and I try to represent them all.
Ian Hislop.
No, I mean, I think the politician's job is to enforce the secular state, including the freedom of expression and freedom of worship and all the things that politicians are meant to do, and religious leaders make points about the fact that people aren't religious enough. I don't think it's very surprising that the Pope should say it's a very secular country because not enough of you go to church. That's his job. That's what the Archbishop of Canterbury says. I'm sure that's what the Chief Imam says. Why aren't there more of you there on a Friday? I mean, this is what religious leaders do. That's fine. I think it is up to us to decide whether we find an excess of materialism or a celebrity culture or a lack of respect for the elderly, the infirm, the handicapped, all the things that the Pope brought up. That's fine for him to mention them. I think it's up to us, not politicians, to decide whether that is a good point. But I have some sympathy with some of those things.
The Prime Minister seemed to be suggesting that the papacy or the Vatican had got it wrong and exaggerated the extent to which this was a largely secular country. And so it wasn't a largely secular country. Do you think it is a largely secular country or not?
The Pope has actually corrected himself. His first speech when he got back to the Vatican, he said, I was very impressed. They seem to be not a very secular country. So there we are. You can all feel happy. No, don't worry about it.
Mehdi.
Just to return to the original question, was should politicians be worried about secularism as the Pope is? I mean, I would actually question the premise of the question. I'm not sure why the Pope is so worried about secularism as his first priority. If I was the Pope, I'd be more worried about the fact that tens of thousands of my priests have been accused of child rape and my church is paying out billions of dollars in compensation. I'm a believer. I have great respect for the Christian faith. I'm a great admirer of the Catholic Church, but I can't take moral or ethical lessons from this Pope, unfortunately. And I would say, on the point of secularism, actually, while he was here, he did say some interesting things, not about secularism, actually. He did make some quite interesting points about celebrity culture, about our children's obsession with being just following sports stars and music stars, about happiness being defined by wealth. Those are actually quite interesting points that I think our politicians should take on board. I think, in terms of religious leaders preaching to politicians, it's a dangerous road to go down.
The woman in the second row there.
I do think there's a problem with religion in this country, but I wouldn't say that secularism is the issue. I'd say it's more how certain religions are treated. I mean, on Saturday, the headline of the Daily Express was a false report that there was a Muslim plot to kill the Pope. And that was reported, and there was no comeback at all for the Daily Express for reporting that. And I think that is something that politicians should tackle, the Islamophobia of this country, rather than worrying about secularism. And that is something that they're fueling at the moment and failing to tackle.
And on the gangway there, yes.
Should the British taxpayer have helped fund the Pope's visit to the UK?
Caroline Flint.
I think like any sort of head of state that visits, and that was his role, I think we have a responsibility in terms of security and what have you. But I think that just goes with when we have visits from people of this stature, whether it's a head of state of a country or in this case, head of a religion. But in terms of the question, I think in Britain today, you know, clearly there are many people of different faiths, many people who attend church or temple or the synagogue, but also I think in this country today there are many people who have a hinterland of faith that lasts them throughout their lifetime. They may not go to church every week, but actually there's something there based on some values that they learnt in their childhood that actually can last them throughout their lives. And in that sense, I think it is about understanding how religion can play an everyday factor in our lives, but something that actually guides us in different ways that might not mean you go to church every Sunday. And I think that actually is often a good thing. I know from my own constituency in Doncaster, different faith groups every day contribute to the well-being of our neighbourhood, and I think that's something to be celebrated.
I know that you, Vince Cable, some time back boycotted a visit by the King of Saudi Arabia on the grounds that he was an autocrat and unfit to be on a state visit. Was it right for the Pope to be on a state visit and for us to pay for it? And what do you make of the general question?
Well, I met the Pope, as it happens, as the local MP and as a minister.
The local MP
in Twickenham. Yeah, where he came.
Oh, where he came, I see. The Vatican, yes. Some special...
Haven't got that far yet.
A special cardinal that we didn't know about.
Always been known as Saint Vince.
That's right.
That would be a major
that's why I wanted to see him, yes.
No, but I mean, seriously, I thought it was the right thing to do. I agree with Caroline on this one, that I'm not a Catholic, but I wanted to show respect for him and the faith that he represented. He did actually, when he was here, make a very profound and unqualified public apology for the abuses that are taking place in the church, and this was put in very forceful terms. But to answer the question, one of the great things about our country is that we do respect individual conscience, and it's not the job of politicians or the state to promote a religious society or an atheistic society. It's for you, the public, to decide which religion you wish to pursue, or not.
Okay, thanks very much. Well, that's it for question time. Sorry to those of you who wanted to speak. Come next time, you have another go. We're going to be in Manchester next week, where, of course, the Labour Party will be having their conference, and by then they'll have a new leader. It's announced on Saturday afternoon. The panel we'll have in Manchester includes Saida Vasi, David Starkey, and the Hollywood star Brian Cox. The week after that, we're off to Birmingham for the Tory Party conference. The panel there will include the Formula One boss, or the former Formula One boss, Max Mosley, and the broadcaster Raghi Omar. And there'll be some professional politicians as well, no doubt, by the time we get there. Now, if you'd like to come to either of those two programmes, we've got a new number, 0330 123 9988, or as ever, you can go to our website. And one last message, if you want to enter Schools Question Time, the challenge, you need to enter by November the 7th. Have a look on our website. You can see all the details there if you've got a school that would like to enter that. I won't say more about it at the moment. Just thank all of you who came to take part on the panel here, and you who came here in Liverpool to ask the questions and put your points. Very grateful to you. Until next Thursday from Liverpool, good night.